Imagine this. For years, her name has dominated headlines, red carpets, and casting announcements, yet her real voice remained carefully guarded. Dakota Johnson. A Hollywood actress known for iconic roles, understated confidence, and career choices that often spark debate. Now, for the first time, Dakota Johnson has finally spoken openly about her acting career and her bold move into film production. And what she revealed is not just an explanation, it's a declaration that reshapes how the industry and audiences see her. Stay until the very end, because one statement from Dakota has already made people inside Hollywood rethink her entire journey. Dakota Johnson has long been seen as everywhere and nowhere at the same time. She appears in major studio films, daring independent projects, international film festivals, and headline-grabbing premieres. Yet behind that visibility, a lingering question followed her career. Was she simply riding opportunities, or quietly building something much bigger? Her latest remarks finally provide an answer. Speaking candidly, Dakota Johnson reflected on her acting career with rare honesty. She addressed the weight of expectations, the labels placed on her early on, and the deliberate choices she has made along the way. She explained that her career was never meant to be a straight path toward fame or approval. For her, acting has always been a space for exploration, a place where risk, discomfort, and even failure are necessary parts of growth. She acknowledged that from the moment she entered the film industry, people tried to define her for her. Some saw her only as a romantic lead, others questioned her credibility because of her Hollywood lineage. Dakota does not deny that her last name opened doors, but she made one thing clear: staying in the room requires constant proof. Every project, every performance, every decision comes with pressure that audiences rarely see. But the most striking part of her statement was not about her past as an actress, it was about her future as a producer. Dakota Johnson revealed that her decision to step into film production was born from long-standing frustration. She grew tired of reading scripts where female characters lacked depth, agency, or emotional truth. She grew tired of seeing bold, intimate stories dismissed as too risky or not marketable enough. That frustration became a turning point. Dakota realized that waiting for the right roles was no longer enough. If she wanted change, she needed to be part of the decision-making process. Film production gave her creative authority, not to control everything, but to protect stories she believes deserve to exist. She wants to be involved from the earliest stages, shaping narratives from concept to final cut. Importantly, Dakota emphasized that producing films does not mean stepping away from acting. In fact, she believes it has made her a more thoughtful and grounded performer. Understanding the full scope of filmmaking, from financing and scheduling to editing and storytelling, has deepened her respect for the craft. She now sees how every small choice can shape the emotional experience of the audience. Midway through her remarks, Dakota offered a tantalizing hint about what's coming next. She revealed that several projects are currently in development, stories she believes would never have been greenlit a decade ago. She described complex human relationships, flawed and layered female characters, and narratives that embrace emotional ambiguity rather than easy resolution. No titles were named, no timelines shared, but the message was clear: something different is on the way. As she continued, it became evident that this was more than an interview, it was a repositioning. Dakota Johnson no longer wants to be defined by a single role, a single era, or a single box. She openly stated that she is willing to take creative risks, even if that means commercial uncertainty. To her, an honest failure is more meaningful than a hollow success. She also addressed the evolving state of Hollywood itself. From the rise of streaming platforms to shifting audience expectations, Dakota believes the industry is undergoing a necessary transformation. She challenged the assumption that viewers only want safe, formulaic content. According to her, audiences are far more perceptive than they are often given credit for, and they are hungry for stories that feel real, intimate, and emotionally resonant. Then came the moment that felt like the emotional peak of her statement. Dakota Johnson said the most important milestone in her career was not fame, awards, or box office success. It was the moment she stopped trying to meet everyone else's expectations. When she began trusting her own instincts, she finally found her voice, not just as an actress, but as a creator. She closed on a reflective yet resolute note. A career, she said, is not about proving something to the world. It's about staying in the game long enough to be honest with yourself. And from the way she spoke, one thing became unmistakably clear: Dakota Johnson has entered the boldest chapter of her professional life. If you've only known Dakota Johnson through short clips or headlines, this moment may change how you see her. And if you want to follow how her evolution as both actress and producer could influence the future of filmmaking, keep watching closely. Because one thing is certain, Dakota Johnson's story is far from over, and in many ways, it's only just beginning. And that sense of beginning is exactly what makes this moment so significant. Dakota Johnson is no longer speaking from a place of reaction, she is speaking from intention. For years, her career was interpreted through external lenses: box office numbers, public perception, viral clips, and assumptions about privilege. Now, she is reframing the narrative on her own terms, and Hollywood is paying attention. Industry insiders note that Dakota's evolution mirrors a larger shift happening behind the scenes. More actors are stepping into production roles, not as vanity projects, but as strategic moves to reclaim creative ownership. Dakota addressed this directly, explaining that the power to say yes or no to a story can fundamentally change the kinds of films that get made. She believes that when actors become producers, the conversation shifts from "will this sell?" to "why does this story matter?" She also spoke about patience, something she says is rarely discussed in an industry obsessed with momentum. Dakota admitted there were periods when she intentionally slowed down, turning down projects that didn't align with her instincts. Those moments, she said, were often misunderstood as hesitation or lack of direction. In reality, they were acts of self-preservation. She wanted to avoid becoming disconnected from the work, something she has seen happen to many talented people who move too fast for too long. This mindset has reshaped how she approaches scripts today. Dakota described her current process as deeply intuitive but disciplined. She looks for emotional truth first, not spectacle. She pays attention to silence in dialogue, contradictions in characters, and the uncomfortable spaces between people. These are the elements she believes linger with audiences long after the credits roll. Another layer of her statement touched on vulnerability, both on and off screen. Dakota acknowledged that taking creative control also means accepting greater responsibility when projects fail. As a producer, there is no one else to hide behind. Yet she views that exposure as necessary. According to her, real growth only happens when artists allow themselves to be seen fully, without defensive layers. She also addressed the pressure of public scrutiny, especially in the age of social media. Dakota explained that constant commentary can distort an artist's relationship with their work. She made a conscious decision to separate her creative life from online noise, focusing instead on collaboration and process. For her, the goal is not to win every conversation, but to make work that holds integrity over time. As the conversation continued, Dakota reflected on collaboration as the true heartbeat of filmmaking. She emphasized that producing is not about control, but about trust, trusting writers to take risks, directors to challenge convention, and actors to explore uncomfortable emotions. She described her ideal set as a space where curiosity is valued more than certainty. One particularly revealing moment came when she discussed fear. Dakota admitted that fear has never disappeared from her career, it has simply changed form. Early on, she feared rejection. Now, she fears complacency. The idea of repeating herself or choosing comfort over curiosity, she said, scares her far more than criticism ever did. This philosophy is already influencing the kinds of partnerships she seeks. Dakota is increasingly drawn to filmmakers who operate outside traditional systems, voices that haven't been overpolished by industry expectations. She believes the future of cinema depends on these perspectives, stories that challenge structure, tone, and emotional rhythm. Toward the later part of her remarks, Dakota addressed longevity. She rejected the idea that careers must peak early to be considered successful. Instead, she views longevity as the ability to evolve without losing authenticity. She wants her body of work to reflect change, contradiction, and growth, not a frozen image of who she once was. She also spoke about legacy, though cautiously. Dakota made it clear that she is not chasing historical recognition or cultural dominance. What matters more to her is whether the work creates connection between characters, between filmmakers, and ultimately, between the screen and the audience. If someone feels seen through a story she helped bring to life, she considers that a success. As her statement drew closer to its conclusion, the tone shifted from reflective to quietly resolute. Dakota Johnson is no longer negotiating her place in Hollywood, she has defined it. She stands at a rare intersection of visibility and control, using both not for spectacle, but for substance. The payoff of her message lands here. This is not a reinvention fueled by crisis or backlash. It is a continuation fueled by clarity. Dakota Johnson knows what she wants to make, why she wants to make it, and who she wants to make it with. That clarity, more than any role or title, marks the true turning point of her career. As audiences, we are now watching a different phase unfold. Not the rise of a star, but the steady emergence of a storyteller. And if her words are any indication, the most challenging, intimate, and meaningful work of Dakota Johnson's career is still ahead. So if you've followed her journey this far, this is the moment to lean in. Because the next chapter won't be defined by noise or expectations, but by intention, risk, and stories that refuse to be forgotten. And that refusal to be forgotten is precisely what separates this phase of Dakota Johnson's career from everything that came before it. She is no longer reacting to the industry's perception of her, she is actively shaping how she wants to exist within it. The conversation around her has shifted, from curiosity to credibility, from speculation to recognition. Observers inside the film industry note that Dakota's transition into production arrives at a critical moment for Hollywood. As studios recalibrate their priorities and audiences demand authenticity over formula, voices like hers are gaining influence. Dakota acknowledged this shift, stating that the current climate has created rare openings for stories that once lived on the margins. Stories centered on emotional complexity, moral ambiguity, and characters who do not fit neatly into heroic or villainous boxes. She explained that as a producer, she is particularly drawn to narratives that sit in the gray areas of human behavior. Characters who make questionable choices, relationships that resist easy definitions, and endings that provoke reflection rather than applause. According to Dakota, these are the stories that mirror real life, and real life, she believes, is far more compelling than perfection. Her comments also touched on the economics of filmmaking, a topic she rarely discussed publicly before. Dakota spoke candidly about the tension between artistic ambition and financial reality. She acknowledged that every project exists within constraints, but she challenged the assumption that meaningful stories cannot also find an audience. She pointed to recent examples of intimate films that resonated deeply, proving that emotional honesty can still be commercially viable. In one of the most revealing moments, Dakota described the internal shift that occurred when she stopped measuring success through external validation. Awards, press coverage, and social media reactions, she said, are fleeting. What lasts is the internal knowledge that the work was done with integrity. That realization, according to her, changed how she sleeps at night, how she chooses collaborators, and how she defines fulfillment. She also reflected on the evolution of her relationship with fame. Early in her career, visibility felt overwhelming and invasive. Now, she views it as a tool, one that can be used to amplify stories and voices that might otherwise go unheard. Dakota is careful, however, to stress that visibility comes with responsibility. She is mindful of the influence she carries and the narratives she helps put into the world. As the discussion deepened, Dakota addressed the idea of creative exhaustion, a quiet issue many actors face but rarely admit. She spoke about moments when acting felt mechanical, when the joy of discovery was replaced by routine. Producing, she said, reignited her curiosity. Being involved in story development reminded her why she fell in love with filmmaking in the first place. She described the early stages of production as both chaotic and exhilarating, rooms filled with ideas, uncertainty, and possibility. For Dakota, that uncertainty is not something to avoid, but something to protect. She believes the best work emerges when creators allow themselves to sit with discomfort rather than rush towards safe conclusions. This philosophy has also influenced how she approaches her performances. Dakota revealed that she is now less interested in being liked on screen and more interested in being truthful. She is willing to portray characters who challenge audiences, who may be misunderstood or even disliked. To her, provocation is not the goal, but honesty often has that effect. As her statement continued, it became increasingly clear that Dakota Johnson is thinking in terms of decades, not seasons. She is building a body of work designed to age, to be revisited, to spark conversation long after release. This long-term perspective stands in contrast to the rapid turnover that dominates modern entertainment. She also addressed mentorship, subtly but meaningfully. Dakota expressed a desire to support emerging voices, particularly writers and directors navigating the industry for the first time. She remembers how isolating those early years can feel, even with opportunity on the table. Through production, she sees a chance to create safer, more collaborative entry points for new talent. Another key moment came when Dakota spoke about control versus freedom. She clarified that creative control does not mean rigidity. In fact, she values flexibility more than ever. As a producer, her goal is to set a strong foundation, then allow space for evolution. She believes that stories, much like people, often reveal their true shape only when given room to breathe. Toward the latter part of her remarks, Dakota returned to the theme of identity. She rejected the idea that an artist must choose a single label: actress, producer, star, creator. For her, these roles are fluid, overlapping, and constantly shifting. She sees this fluidity not as confusion, but as freedom. The emotional undercurrent of her message grew stronger as she reflected on resilience. Dakota admitted that criticism still stings, rejection still hurts, and doubt still appears. The difference now is that she no longer allows those moments to define her direction. She has learned to move forward without needing certainty, trusting that clarity often arrives in motion. As her words settled, the broader implication became impossible to ignore. Dakota Johnson is not positioning herself for a comeback or a rebrand. She is establishing permanence. A presence built not on spectacle, but on substance. Not on noise, but on intention. For audiences, this marks a shift in how her future projects will be received. Viewers may no longer ask whether a Dakota Johnson film will be controversial or unexpected. Instead, the question becomes simpler and more compelling. What truth is she trying to explore this time? And that is where the story leaves us, for now. Dakota Johnson stands at a moment of creative alignment, where experience meets confidence, and ambition meets restraint. The path ahead is not guaranteed, but it is undeniably hers. If this chapter has shown anything, it is that Dakota Johnson is done explaining herself. She is done waiting for permission. What comes next will not be louder, but it will be deeper. And for those paying attention, this may be the most powerful move of her career yet. And depth, for Dakota Johnson, has become the true measure of success. As her reflections continued, it became clear that she now evaluates every project through a single question: will this still matter when the noise fades? This mindset has quietly guided her recent decisions, even when those choices seemed unexpected from the outside. She spoke about how time has altered her relationship with ambition. Earlier in her career, ambition meant visibility, being cast, being seen, being relevant. Now, ambition has taken on a quieter but more demanding form. It means endurance. It means choosing work that can withstand scrutiny years later. When trends have shifted and cultural conversations have evolved, Dakota acknowledged that this approach often places her at odds with the faster rhythms of the industry. Hollywood, she noted, is built on urgency, opening weekends, viral moments, immediate reactions. But she no longer feels compelled to match that pace. She is comfortable letting projects develop slowly, even if that means disappearing from the spotlight for a while. Absence, she believes, can be as intentional as presence. This philosophy extends to how she handles uncertainty. Dakota admitted that there are moments when the path ahead feels unclear, even now. But instead of resisting that feeling, she has learned to accept it as part of the process. Creativity, she said, thrives in uncertainty. Certainty may feel safer, but it rarely produces work that surprises or challenges. She also addressed the emotional cost of longevity in a public-facing career. Remaining open, curious, and vulnerable over many years requires resilience. Dakota spoke about the importance of protecting her inner life, keeping parts of herself untouched by performance or expectation. That separation allows her to return to her work with honesty, rather than exhaustion. Another revealing layer of her remarks centered on intuition. Dakota described intuition not as instinct alone, but as experience distilled into feeling. After years of navigating sets, scripts, and collaborations, she has learned to recognize when something feels aligned, and when it does not. Trusting that internal signal, she said, has saved her from projects that looked promising on paper but felt hollow in practice. As a producer, this intuition now shapes entire productions. She pays close attention to tone meetings, early rehearsals, and the energy in development rooms. These early signals often determine whether a project will maintain its integrity through completion. For Dakota, protecting that integrity has become non-negotiable. She also reflected on audience connection in a more intimate way. Dakota does not see viewers as demographics or metrics. She imagines individuals, people watching alone late at night, or returning to a film during a difficult moment in their lives. Knowing that a story might accompany someone through a quiet, personal experience gives her work a sense of gravity. This perspective has influenced how she thinks about endings. She expressed a growing appreciation for unresolved conclusions, stories that do not neatly tie every thread. Life, she said, rarely offers closure on demand. Allowing audiences to sit with ambiguity respects their intelligence and emotional capacity. As the conversation unfolded, Dakota returned to the idea of fear once more, but this time, with clarity. Fear, she explained, is no longer something she tries to eliminate. Instead, she uses it as a compass. If a project frightens her creatively, it often means she is standing at the edge of growth. Comfort, by contrast, signals stagnation. This belief has led her toward more challenging material, both emotionally and structurally. She is less interested in repeating familiar dynamics and more invested in stories that require transformation, stories that ask something of her, rather than confirm what she already knows. She also spoke about failure with unusual calm. Failure, in her view, is inevitable when risks are taken seriously. What matters is whether failure is honest. Projects that fall short despite sincere effort still contribute to an artist's evolution. Avoiding failure altogether, she warned, often means avoiding growth. As her remarks approached their later stages, the cumulative effect became striking. Dakota Johnson is no longer positioning herself within Hollywood's existing framework. She is quietly redefining how she wants to participate in it. Her career now resembles a long conversation rather than a series of performances, each project responding to the last, building towards something cohesive. This cohesion is not about control, but about authorship. Even when she is not the writer or director, Dakota seeks a sense of authorship in the choices she makes. She wants her work to reflect a point of view, even if that point of view is subtle or uncomfortable. She also touched briefly on trust, trust in collaborators, in audiences, and in time itself. Time, she believes, is the ultimate editor. Work that is rushed may shine briefly, but work that is honest will endure. This belief has given her patience in moments when immediate recognition does not arrive. The emotional resonance of her words lingered as she concluded. Dakota Johnson is not chasing relevance, she is cultivating meaning. She is not aiming to dominate conversations, she is content to start quieter ones that unfold slowly, deeply, and honestly. For those watching her journey, this phase may feel less explosive than earlier moments, but it is far more intentional. This is the phase where choices accumulate, where identity solidifies, and where artistry takes precedence over image. And that is the true significance of Dakota Johnson finally speaking out about her career in acting and film production. It is not a reveal designed to shock, but a clarity meant to endure. A statement not of arrival, but of direction. As the industry continues to shift, and as audiences seek stories that resonate beyond spectacle, Dakota Johnson stands prepared, not by reinventing herself, but by committing fully to who she has become. What comes next may not follow predictable patterns. It may arrive quietly. It may challenge expectations. But one thing is certain, it will be deliberate, it will be honest, and it will carry the unmistakable signature of an artist who has finally claimed her own narrative.